Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, and welcome to the Generations Together webinar. My name is Maria Federica Muscati, and I'm a senior lecturer at University of Sussex, which is hosting this event. Before I hand over to the other team members, friends who have organized with us this webinar, I would like to ask you, to all of you who are attending, to put your name and also to write a hello in your language and also where you are calling from on our chat. Before we start, I would like to thank all the interpreters here. This is an event which is happening between Europe, the US, South America, and Africa, and the languages spoken here are English, French, and Spanish. I would like to thank you, in particular, our panelists from the African Movement of Working Children and Youth, Act Together from Bolivia, and Youth versus Apocalypse from the United States. And now I hand over to my colleague Olivia, who will give you some tips, some tech info.
Good day, everyone, morning, evening, or wherever you're listening from. As Maria said, we're very happy to have you today and have the great opportunity to have interpretations during these meetings, so our young activists can understand each other, but you're also able to listen in the language of your preference during the whole webinar. If you see in your Zoom panel, at the bottom of the panel, you should be able to choose the language that you prefer by clicking on the little map. And as you click there, you also have the option to decide if you still want to hear 20% volume of the main room, so you can hear the different voices, or if you'd rather have just the interpreter voice and focus on them, and you can select that option. We're very pleased to have you here. We're looking forward to see where you're from and where you are. The video is also broadcasted through YouTube for your information. And we will be using the Q&A and the chat to get your question. It's being monitored, so feel free to engage there as the discussion is going, and we will take some time to review your comments and questions. So with no further ado, I do want to introduce our first speakers, Claire O'Kane and Richard Carruthers.
Good day to everyone. My name is Richard Carruthers. I help coordinate the Children at Work Network, and that's a group that brings together researchers and practitioners who are trying to help working children. My own involvement with working children began through a conversation with some of the shoeshine boys in Upper Egypt. And through that conversation, I realized that if we were trying to develop programs that would help children, in particular working children, then we better be listening to what the children had to say. The preparations for this webinar have come through the Children at Work Network, but it has since expanded to include other volunteers from different organizations and a number of people who are volunteering to help out with translation.
Great.
Over to Claire.
Thank you very much. So my name's Claire O'Kane, and I've been working on child rights as a practitioner and a researcher for over 25 years. And similar to Richard, my teachers in children's rights were working children, organised working children, who I collaborated with for a number of years in the 1990s. And today we're aware that there are very significant challenges facing humankind, including the climate crisis, the COVID-19 pandemic, a whole series of human rights violations and inequalities based on race, ethnicity, gender, age, disability, income, and different factors. We also see that young people are at the forefront of movements for climate justice, social justice, and human rights, that children and young people are engaged civically in their own local communities and beyond, and really working to create positive social change. The members of our group really see that this is a critical time in history, and a lot depends on the willingness of adults to partner with children and young people, to dialogue and to work together to address these challenges faced, and to really ensure that adults are more accountable to young people. So we're excited to have these young people with us, and Richard will just share a little bit more about the process.
This webinar really provides us with an important opportunity for us to learn from young activists, to understand the intergenerational collaboration that they most need, and to see how together we can support the kinds of transformational changes that come across these connected rights and justice issues that are really affecting all of us.
So we pass now to Luis Pinto, who's facilitating the conversation with young activists from different parts of the world. Over to you, Luis.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for taking the time, either it's a morning or an afternoon of your Saturday, to be with us. We organized it now so that the young people who are very busy with school work and their activist activities could join us. So I'm glad that you could be with us now. I am going to moderate a conversation with these young people that are coming from Bolivia, United States, Togo, Nigeria, about their activism, what they are doing, what they're trying to change, but also a lot about how they are working with their peers, with adults, and how adults can be better allies, better support to their work. So I'm just gonna ask one by one for them to come on to the video, turn on their video so that we know who they are and that they are with us. I'll start with the young people from the African Movement of Working Children and Youth. We have Esther from Togo. Esther va parler en français. Esther, est-ce que tu es là? Tu nous entends? We've been experiencing a little bit of technical difficulties connecting with Esther. Let's hope that she will be able to connect. I'll try again. Esther, est-ce que tu es là? Tu nous entends? On entend une moto. we listen to the motorbike. Let's hope that you'll be able to connect soon and engage with us. Meanwhile, I'll just ask the host to mute Esther so that we can reduce the background noise. And from Nigeria, we have Hanifat. Can you just say hello to us?
Hello.
Hello, everyone.
Yeah, you can say a little bit about yourself. Tell us your age, where you're calling from, what's happening around you.
Okay. Good afternoon. Good I'm Nigeria, the national delegate of the movement in the country. Youth is a child and youth-led organization which works to promote the rights of the children and the young youth. Protect the move. Those are the migrant children, the children that move from their country to another for a reason or because of the natural disasters in the country. We also promote the right. We have the 12 priority rights which we work on. We also work to promote the rights of the children. For example, we have the right to play, the right to read and write. We have the right to read and write, the right to learn a trade. Every children in every country have the right to be educated. Also have the right to learn a trade, maybe learning of different trade except from the so we also have the right to only going to school, but after schooling we can also do some things like learning of trade and so on. So we also protect the children on the move. For example, there are children that if you see them in some places, they look dirty with some luggage in their hands. So when we see such children, we call them and speak to them. We ask them why they look dirty, why they are carrying luggage on their head. If we recognize them as migrant children, children who are moving from other countries to another for no reason or illegally, so we bring those children to us. We try to do the family tracing, and later we move them back to their countries with good conditions. We also try to sensitize people on early marriage, child trafficking. We also do advocacy and other things. Also during the pandemic, coronavirus pandemic, we raised some awareness on the existence of the virus, because when the virus started early, most people did not believe the virus is real. They think it's just a joke. So the African movement of working children and youth resistance of the virus, educate people on what the causes of the virus and how to prevent the virus. We also try to make we sew some nose masks, and we also provide some hand washing basins into different communities, different countries for people to use to prevent the virus also. Thank you.
Hanifat,
Yes.
before I try to pass it to Esther, I just wanted to ask you, can you say something about yourself, like your age, what is your occupation? You already said that you are the national delegate for Nigeria for your organization, but it would be nice to know a little bit about yourself, just whatever you feel is important for others to know about you.
Okay, thank you. Once again, my name is Nugunode Semawanifat. I am 16 years old. I'm a student. Also, what I do, my handwork is bead making. I do make bead. I use bead in making bags, jewelries, bracelets, footwears, and so on.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm still going to try. Je vais encore essayer Esther. Esther, est-ce que tu nous entends? Est-ce que tu pourrais te présenter? Je pense qu'on a perdu Esther. Okay. We will come back to Esther that is trying to connect from Togo. I'm now going to move across the ocean to South America. And I'm going to introduce or ask the young people that are connected to the organization Act Together in Bolivia to introduce themselves. And since Hanifat also already did, maybe to introduce the activities that they are involved with. So maybe I start with Jorge. Jorge, te voy a pedir que te presentes, que digas algo sobre ti, que quieres que la gente que nos escuchas sepa sobre ti, y que digas un poco de las actividades en que estás involucrado en Act Together.
Perdón, Luis, ¿me dijiste a mí que empiece?
Perdona, no, he pedido a Jorge que empiece, porque
Okay,
ya que fue una chica, una joven que habló antes, entonces intentaba alternar el género. Entonces voy a pedir a Jorge que empiece y después pasaremos a ti. ¿Vale, Nina? Gracias. Jorge. pues.
Sí. Buenas tardes a todos. Soy Jorge Gutiérrez de La Paz, Bolivia. Se pueden acordar de mí como Jorgito. Yo actualmente estoy estudiando, estoy aprendiendo a tocar el piano y vengo un poco en representación del comité de niños, niñas y adolescentes de La Paz, del municipio de La Paz. Lo que nosotros hacemos es representar a los niños, niñas y adolescentes en sus pedidos, en sus necesidades y en lo que ellos estarían necesitando. Nosotros los escuchamos y a partir de eso empezamos a hacer propuestas al gobierno municipal, que está dentro de nuestra jurisdicción, para ver si se las puede cumplir. Esa es de nuestras principales funciones, aunque también estamos a favor de defender los derechos de los niños, niñas y adolescentes. Me voy a enfocar en uno que para mí es el más importante, que es el derecho a la educación. Hay dos cosas centrales en la humanidad: la educación, el conocimiento que la humanidad tenga, y su bienestar. Para comenzar, la educación proporciona avances a la humanidad para que tenga bienestar. Este es uno de los derechos que defendemos. Muchas gracias por invitarme a este webinar.
Jorge, ¿puedes decirnos también cuál es tu papel, tu rol en el comité de La Paz, yo creo?
Yo soy el presidente del comité actualmente. Y hay paridad de género, que esto es muy interesante porque hay presidente y presidenta, vicepresidente, vicepresidenta. Y así con todos los cargos. Se ha respetado mucho la igualdad en cuanto a géneros y es como que hay igual cantidad de hombres que de mujeres y se ha clasificado en dos rangos, también igualitarios en cuestión de edad, de 10 a 13 años y de 14 a 17 años, que son las dos categorías que, digamos, habría en el comité. O sea, por un lado tienes paridad de género, que es igualdad en los géneros, y por otro lado tienes igualdad en las edades, que eso es muy bonito. También eso consta en las normativas del comité.
Gracias, Jorge. Y también de Bolivia, Nina Pi, que está aquí, yo creo que también involucrada en los comités, pero también involucrada con otras actividades como Fridays for Future en Bolivia. Nina, ¿te puedes presentar, decirnos un poco de algo de tu vida que sea interesante para los que nos escuchan y también tu edad y tu papel en el comité?
Muchas gracias, Luis. Bueno, buenas tardes, buenos días a todos. Es un gusto para mí poder participar de este increíble panel. Mi nombre es Nina Pi, tengo 17 años, soy de La Paz, Bolivia y soy activista por el medio ambiente. Yo soy fundadora de Fridays for Future en mi país. Y bueno, ya llevamos casi 2 años de activismo y nos podemos enorgullecer de ya varios logros, tanto a nivel nacional como internacional. Trabajamos básicamente por 2 ramas, una que va más hacia la llegada a las personas, poder contarles qué es lo que está pasando en materia ambiental, por qué es importante tomar acción ahora, y otra que es un poco más propositiva, de presentar propuestas a las autoridades y poder realizar proyectos nosotros mismos, ¿no? Entonces, va a ser un honor para mí poder compartir espacio con tan increíbles activistas y eso. Muchísimas gracias por la invitación.
Gracias a ti, Nina, de estar con nosotros. And now I'm going to travel north to the United States, and I am going to introduce 2 speakers that are working with an organization called Youth versus Apocalypse. And I will ask them the same, that they describe very briefly what their organization is trying to change, what they work for, and also their, something about themselves, their role in the organization. So maybe I start with Katerina Gaines, if that is okay. Can you tell us a little bit about Youth versus Apocalypse and yourself?
Yeah, okay, so I can introduce myself and the work that I do with Youth versus Apocalypse, but I think it'd be better for Anaya to introduce the work that we do specifically because she has a lot more experience than I do. So yeah, my name is Katerina, as you just heard. I'm in 11th grade. I am 16 years old and I live in California. I started working with Youth vs. Apocalypse in the beginning of 2020, before the pandemic, and was part of the fellowship there, which is basically like a program that youth can take to learn how to become the best activists that they can be and also leaders within their community. And yeah, so since then, I've also become one of the coordinators for the Green New Deal campaign. And the goal of the Green New Deal campaign is to pass Green New Deal related legislation on a local, state, and federal level, so that we can have a livable and just future. Yeah, and I'll pass it on to Anaya.
Thank you, Katerina. Anaya, hi.
Yeah, hi, my name is Anaya Butler. I'm 14 years old. I live in California, in the Bay Area, which is the United States. I'm a 9th grader in high school, and I'm an organizer with YVA. I'm also a poet and spoken word artist. Youth versus Apocalypse is a Bay Area-based group full of frontline youth fighting for climate justice while also advocating for social justice. One of the special things about YVA is we really try to emphasize the importance of knowing and also acknowledging the intersectionality between climate justice and social justice as youth, because we know both of these injustices and problems in our world are fueled by our country's foundations of oppression. And so, to achieve these problems, we have to dismantle all these systems of oppression. I'm a campaign coordinator of Reclaim Our Power, which is a campaign, targeting PG&E for all the destruction with the wildfires that happened in the past few years, and to hold them accountable and to fight for a new, safe, and reliable energy system. I'm also the coordinator of the Hip Hop and Climate Justice Initiative, which is an initiative in Youth versus Apocalypse, which is really trying to emphasize and trying to have hip hop and activism become a thing in the climate justice movement, because it can make education about climate change more accessible to people of color and youth, the communities we are trying to reach, but also in a more creative way and sort of self-care way, because the topics we talk about are really mentally draining and, sort of hard to talk about all the time. So we use hip hop to, make it a fun way for youth to learn about climate change and to learn about ways they can get involved.
Thank you, Anaya. I would like to, maybe for a lot of people that are listening to us, they might not know what it means to have, I think Anaya said, frontline youth organization, or sometimes we say child-led organization. I would like to ask our guests if they could describe a little bit, how is it that young people get organized? How did they come together to do the work that you're trying to do? And I'd like to hear a little bit from each of the groups. So maybe I actually go the other way around. I could start already by Youth versus Apocalypse. You talked a little bit about campaigns. So how do young people come together to work? Either Anaya or Katerina, whoever feels like you can answer. You want to give it a go, Katerina, since, yeah.
Sure. Okay, so Anaya can also add on if I miss something. But basically, Youth vs. Apocalypse, basically I would say the leaders of the organization are youth, so it is a youth-led organization, and we meet on a weekly basis through Lead Circle meetings. And Lead Circle is basically the group of youth who make leadership decisions for the organization. And then there's also campaigns, and those are focused on tackling specific climate justice issues. And then there's also the fellowship, which is youth from all across California and the Bay Area who are also actively involved in the work that we do. So although we do have like a group of like leaders who make like leadership decisions, like Youth vs. Apocalypse is not limited to Lead Circle. And there's like hundreds of people who have participated in our actions and who are actively involved.
So if I understood correctly, there's a big part of your work which is about demonstrations, organizing demonstrations, trying to change or influence policy, legislation, but you also use other media, like you were describing the use of hip hop or art as a way to share a narrative and to create awareness, right? And am I understanding?
Yeah, and then we also have school clubs. Due to the pandemic, it has been kind of hard to get, to make presentations at schools, but school clubs are a really big part of YVA because that's how we get most of our people who sign up for the fellowship and who also progress up into Lead Circle. And so in school presentations, really just talk about, the different campaigns we have and how they can get involved. A lot of schools, they have came to YVA and they help make our signs, they help do the murals and help lead chants and come up with chants and just stuff like that. And so basically we have like kind of 3 branches of YVA, but like Katarina said, YVA is not limited to Lead Circle. There's really a lot of different aspects and places where youth come in Youth vs. Apocalypse.
Thank you, Anaya. I'm going to ask the African movement representatives, Anifat and Esther. Let me try and see if Esther is with us now. Esther, est-ce que tu es là? Est-ce que tu es connectée? Est-ce que tu nous entends? Est-ce que tu peux parler? Bon, pas pour l'instant. Anifat, could I ask you the same question? How does the African movement get organized? Because you mentioned you are a national delegate. What does that mean? And how do children and young people come together in the structure of the African movement, at least in Nigeria? Because I know you are part of a big network with more than 20 countries across Africa, right?
Yes. Okay. How the children and the youth come together to participate in the activities? When we want to pass a particular message, let's say for instance, during the COVID-19 pandemic, we try to produce some comic book, that is like drawing the cartoons, illustrating. So for the people that are not educated, we want to describe how to use the nose mask. So we try to illustrate it in a drawing of images and putting the nose mask covering the nose and both the mouth of the person and mask. That shows the correct way of using the nose mask. But if we are to show the wrong way of using the nose mask, we might just draw an image which is covering only the nose without the mouth. That will be cancelled, wrong use of the image. So when we want to carry out our activities, we try to promote gender equality and also equality between everyone. So from there, people will be able to be interested. Much children and the youth will be interested. Not that some people will be participating while some people will be like out of the game. So we try to involve everybody, to carry everybody along in both the people that are educated and the ones that are not educated. If you can draw and if you can produce an image that can explain an information, so we give you the role. If you are the person that you can write, so we give you that role. So we share the roles in between everyone so that everybody in the organization can be able to participate and do something. So through that, both the children and the young, they try to do something like that.
And so, for instance, if you take this comic book that you described, these are all children and young people that come together and create the comic book, distribute the comic book. This is all done by children and young people.
Yes, it is done by children and the young people. We do it together.
And how about your role as national delegates, because you represent your country in the federation in several African countries. How do you become a delegate? And are all the delegates and the people making decisions also children and young people?
Okay, how I become the national delegate is just that, maybe like punctuality. We have the dates that we attend our meetings. It can be the first Wednesday and the last Wednesday of the month. So I go to the meeting regularly and I participate very well in the activities. So I also know much about the organization. So from there, the children, when we want to pick the national delegate, so the children will have to vote, just like raising up of hands, counting the people that supported you and the people that supported the opponent. So from there, the qualified person will be the one to represent, to be the national delegate.
Thank you, Anifat. Let's hear a little bit from Bolivia. Ahora voy a empezar por Nina. Nina, a lo mejor vas a hablar más del trabajo con Fridays for Future Bolivia, ¿no? Y entonces quería preguntarte cómo se organizan los niños y niñas jóvenes en Bolivia para hacer el trabajo de Fridays for Future. Y ya preguntaré a Jorge sobre el trabajo del comité, que ya nos habló un poco, pero quiero saber un poco más.
¿Sí?
¿Sí? ¿Me escuchas? A lo mejor se congeló un poco
¿Logran
el
escucharme, perdón?
Sí, te escucho, ahora sí.
Súper.
Sí.
Genial. Entonces, nosotros lo que hemos intentado es realmente plasmar las capacidades y los pensamientos de los jóvenes en un movimiento que los represente, ¿no? Entonces, a estas capacidades me refiero la innovación, la inclusión, ¿no? Entonces, nosotros somos un movimiento horizontal que está conformado en su mayoría por jóvenes, aunque no única mayoría por jóvenes estudiantes de colegio o de universidad. Tenemos constante contacto con los grupos tanto regionales con los que trabajamos, que claramente tenemos vivencias parecidas, ¿no? Y también con el movimiento mundial. Entonces, como les decía, somos un movimiento horizontal, entonces, es decir que todos podemos proponer, no hay realmente escalas de poder, digamos, en el grupo. Todos proponemos, nos repartimos el trabajo de manera igualitaria, digamos. Todos los que están dentro del grupo lo hacen de forma voluntaria. Y claro, durante todo nuestro tiempo en el activismo hemos podido tanto producir soluciones, y eso ha sido muy importante, ¿no? Porque hemos logrado realmente tomar esta capacidad de poder centralizarnos en un problema y no quedarnos ahí, sino realmente desde nuestra parte, ¿no? Y claro, estamos en un estado de convocatoria permanente, siempre intentando buscar más irse a nuestro grupo, ya que estamos convencidos de que unidos vamos a poder realmente encontrar la solución. Y también bajo el pensamiento, no debemos excluir al resto de las luchas ni pensar que la lucha ambiental es la única importante, ya que no es el caso, sino más bien reconocer que todas están interconectadas y así juntas se las va a resolver, ¿no? Entonces siempre trabajando con otras organizaciones, haciendo alianzas y escuchándonos, ¿no? Ahora con el COVID hemos tenido que reinventarnos, y realmente hemos seguido trabajando y eso ha sido algo bueno. Hemos podido renacer de las cenizas, digamos.
Sí, eso también nos ha dicho Anaya, ¿no? Que las luchas están interconectadas, que para el caso de Youth versus Apocalypse, mucho el tema entre justicia climática con justicia social, ¿no? Y la opresión, las estructuras de opresión que existen en el país. El tipo de trabajo que hace Fridays for Future, claro, lo conocemos de las, como le dices en español, manifestaciones, ¿sí? Pero también hay otros tipos de trabajo, ¿no? Que hacen más educativo. ¿Puedes darme un ejemplo?
Totalmente. Siempre intentamos poder constantes formaciones a las personas que quieran sumarse a la lucha, ya que lo más importante para empezar en el activismo es estar informado, saber del problema, para así también poder proponer soluciones, ¿no? Y tener bien en claro qué es lo que buscas. Entonces, por eso sí, formaciones, y siempre estamos buscando espacios. Bueno, antes lo hacíamos más de forma presencial, ¿no? Hemos participado de varias ferias, sobre todo hemos tenido la oportunidad de participar de la feria más grande de La Paz. Entonces ha sido una hermosa experiencia. Hemos visto cómo las personas empiezan a interesar por el problema, ser parte de la solución, ¿no? Entonces sí, es parte muy importante de nuestro activismo poder llegar a las personas y llamarlos a que se sumen.
Gracias, Nina. Jorge. Vale, pues te voy a hacer la misma pregunta. Ya nos hablaste un poco de la paridad de género, que es algo muy interesante en el comité, ¿no? Me imagino, si todos los gobiernos tuvieran esta idea de no solamente de paridad de género, pero también de compartir la decisión, porque tú tienes una copresidente, hay co-vicepresidente, entonces solo el hecho de intentar compartir las decisiones, yo creo que cambiaría mucho. Pero ¿qué me puedes decir más de cómo se organizan los niños y niñas en el comité, cómo eligen sus papeles, qué papeles tienen? ¿Qué me puedes decir más?
Para mí es muy importante destacar que siempre hubo un antes y después de la pandemia. Para comenzar, antes de la pandemia, que fue muy poco tiempo, pero sí lo hubo, nos organizábamos de manera presencial. Nosotros a veces asistíamos a reuniones para determinar algunas cosas. Generalmente el gobierno nos prestaba algunos espacios para reunirnos. En eso tuvimos suerte porque también nos apoya una red de organizaciones nacionales e internacionales que más bien siempre han estado al lado nuestro. Y eso es muy de agradecer. También es importante destacar que no es que sean co-vicepresidentes o copresidentes. Es como que estamos al mismo nivel, presidente, presidenta, vicepresidente y así. Pero básicamente nosotros, que somos presidente, vicepresidenta y todas las autoridades de la directiva del comité, solo nos encargamos de representar al comité, porque en realidad las ideas que surgen, las necesidades que surgen, las sacamos entre todos. No es un trabajo de una sola persona, de mí que yo venga a hablarles de lo que yo piense, no, es un trabajo de todas las personas que trabajan en el comité. Ahora, también hay que destacar que en la pandemia es como que un tiempo nos quedamos paralizados, pero luego le vimos el potencial a las redes. Hay muchísimas personas que simplemente al abrir sus redes sociales ven un video, por ejemplo, Facebook, ven un video compartido. Y nosotros dijimos, ¿por qué no compartir videos que promuevan cosas positivas para los niños, niñas y adolescentes? Magnífico. Y por suerte contamos con personas que sí sabían editar videos, incluso también siempre las organizaciones se ofrecieron para apoyarnos en este sentido. Y la mayoría del trabajo que desarrollamos, incluso las reuniones, tuvieron que trasladarse a la virtualidad por esto del coronavirus, de la pandemia. Lo mejor de esto es que para hacer cosas, para hacer actividades, no tienes que decir así, por favor, vengan. Generalmente hay voluntarios del comité que nos ofrecemos para para hacer cualquier cosa y que estamos listos ahí. Hay personas sí que a veces no van, pero generalmente hay una disponibilidad increíble de las personas, así que con eso no tenemos ningún problema. Ahora las actividades, con estos videos, lo que generalmente hacemos es promover o educar en distintos aspectos. Lo que es muy bueno porque las personas ven estos videos cortos y ya saben algo más. Tal vez sobre, como un ejemplo, sobre el cuidado del coronavirus, ¿no? Cómo ponerse la mascarilla, por ejemplo. Y digamos, ven un video corto de nosotros y dicen, ah, así se hace. Y los niños y adolescentes proponen estas cosas.
So, Jorge, yo creo que esto es algo que compartimos todo en este momento, es algo que nos acuerda de nuestra humanidad, porque Hanifat también estaba dando un ejemplo de cómo tuvieron que adaptar sus actividades, de que ahora una de sus actividades es todo el trabajo de información envuelta del tema de COVID, de la seguridad ligada al COVID y todo más. Y es increíble que en Togo, en Nigeria y en Bolivia, estamos todos utilizando nuestra creatividad para enfrentar los mismos temas. Gracias, Jorge. Ahora voy a hablar en inglés. I'm going to change a little bit into what was the heart of our webinar, now that we got to know a little bit more about your roles, how your organizations come together and what you are working towards. I'd like to get into the question of how children and young people relate with adults. And maybe how we move forward is, if you want to, I will ask the question, and if you feel spontaneously that you can answer or have something to say, you can turn on your video. And if you don't, I will make invitations, so you cannot escape participating in the conversation. I was also, before I go on, I was also told that our friend Esther from Togo was able to connect. So I'm going to try again and see if she can introduce herself and say something about who she is for those who are listening to us. Esther, j'essaye encore une fois pour voir si tu arrives à nous écouter.
Oui, j'arrive à vous écouter.
Ouais, c'est super, on est très content de t'avoir parmi nous finalement. Donc voilà. Donc,
ok, merci.
Je ne sais pas si tu as l'opportunité de suivre un peu la conversation. Juste pour te dire, on s'est présenté un tout petit peu. Chaque personne a dit leur âge, leur rôle. On a décrit un tout petit peu les organisations auxquelles on appartient et comment les jeunes et les enfants se mettent ensemble pour travailler et pour faire avancer les buts des organisations. Et donc, je voulais te donner l'opportunité de parler un peu de toi, de dire ton âge, de comment tu t'occupes dans ta vie et quel est le rôle que tu as dans ton organisation.
Ok, merci. Moi, c'est Keolo Esther et je suis la déléguée de le mouvement des enfants et jeunes travailleurs. Et j'ai 17 ans. Et par rapport aux activités que nous réalisons dans notre mouvement, notre objectif est d'amener tous les enfants à s'épanouir. Toutes les activités qui doivent être faites pour que les enfants s'épanouissent, aient une bonne vie, soient capables de réaliser leur avenir. C'est en fait notre objectif dans notre association. Et pour voir comment les membres arrivent à joindre notre mouvement. Par exemple, nous faisons des activités de sensibilisation et nous, par rapport au message que nous passons, il y a certains enfants qui sont intéressés de ce que nous faisons et veulent participer à notre mouvement. Donc, nous formons ces enfants-là et nous leur disons ce que c'est que les 12 droits et nous essayons de travailler avec ces enfants-là. Et par exemple, si je prends mon exemple, moi, j'ai été un enfant de rue qui a été identifié par les EJT et qui a été réinstallé à l'école. Donc, et les enfants qui sont dans les rues, nous essayons de faire une petite sortie sur le terrain pour voir les enfants qui vivent dans les marchés, dans la rue. Nous essayons de causer avec eux, voir leurs réels problèmes et comment nous pouvons les aider. Il y a aussi certains enfants qui sont en mobilité, qui quittent leur localité pour d'autres pays à la recherche d'une vie meilleure. Et ils pensent qu'en se déplaçant, ils peuvent vivre mieux que leur localité. Peut-être que les parents ne prennent pas soin d'eux et ils décident d'aller ailleurs dans les autres pays, mais les chemins qu'ils passent sont très dangereux pour leur vie. Donc, nous essayons de passer par ces voies où les enfants passent pour s'enfuir de leur pays, mais qui sont dangereux pour eux, pour pouvoir les orienter si vraiment ils veulent se déplacer, voir dans quelles conditions ils doivent se déplacer et comment voir pour les organiser pour qu'il n'y ait pas de danger. Merci.
Un grand merci, Esther. Et voilà, heureux qu'on puisse finalement s'écouter. Je voulais juste garantir que tu as pu choisir la langue française dans le petit bouton qui dit interprétation en bas dans le menu pour que tu puisses suivre toute la conversation en français.
Ok, compris.
Ok, très bien. I will continue in English. So I'd like to go back now to the question that opening the theme around relationships between people of different ages. And I'd like to just throw out the question to all of you, all of our panelists. Is it easy to work with people of your age? Is it easy to work with other children and young people? Who can tell me something about this? You can just, Jorge, you raise your hand.
Oh, bueno, en el comité tenemos muchísimas edades, mucha diversidad de edades. Y hay veces que es como un complemento. Nosotros que, digamos, estamos un poco más jóvenes, más grandes, es como que no tenemos la creatividad que los niños pequeños tienen. Y los niños pequeños sí la tienen, así que nos dan ideas y nosotros decimos, esto puede hacerse así, y objetamos generalmente las cosas en contra que pueden tener para después hacer las actividades. Así que sí, es como una especie de complemento y se forma una cosa muy bonita.
Thank you, Jorge. That's very nice because in your organization, you actually have much younger children. So you actually have the whole range. We will talk about the adults later. Let's stick with the conversation about children and young people. Who else can tell me about how it is to work with other children and young people? Is it easier? Is it harder? Anyone that has a contrasting answer to Jorge? Esther?
Oui.
Est-ce que tu pourrais nous dire, j'ai posé une question de savoir, est-ce que c'est plus facile de travailler avec des enfants et des jeunes comme toi, ou c'est plutôt plus difficile? Qu'est-ce que tu pourrais me dire par rapport à ça?
Ok, pour travailler avec les enfants de notre âge, c'est un peu facile pour nous. Mais comme dans le mouvement, nous avons plusieurs tranches d'âge. Il y a les plus petits et il y a ceux qui nous dépassent. Donc, pour travailler avec des plus petits, il y a certaines activités que nous devons réaliser avec eux, mais pas avec d'autres. Et par exemple, si nous voulons... Oui?
Oui, on t'entend. Vas-y. Esther?
Si nous voulons réaliser les activités de sensibilisation, par exemple, il y a certaines personnes qui ne peuvent pas sortir sur le terrain pour faire la sensibilisation. Et Mais par exemple, si nous prenons les activités d'AGR, tout le monde tout le monde peut participer à l'activité. Il y a certaines activités que nous pouvons réaliser. Il y a certaines activités que nous pouvons réaliser en tant que même tranche d'âge et d'autres nous ne pouvons pas réaliser.
Tu peux nous donner un exemple? Quelles sont les activités que sont réservées aux jeunes un peu plus âgés?
Par rapport aux activités, il y a certaines activités qu'en tant que nous jeunes, nous voulons nous-mêmes pour évaluer notre niveau de compétence, notre niveau de mise en œuvre de nos activités. Par exemple, nous avons décidé de faire un plan d'action et de le mettre en œuvre. Donc, il y a une tranche d'âge, par exemple, les enfants de 8 ans, 9 ans qui n'ont pas la capacité de pouvoir comprendre le français, de pouvoir comprendre les activités que nous voulons faire et jusqu'à réaliser l'activité. Mais si nous prenons une tranche de 13 à 18 ans, nous pouvons voir que ces personnes-là sont capables de comprendre le français parce qu'ils sont à un niveau d'études un peu élevé. Ils vont comprendre un peu le français et comprendre l'activité que nous voulons faire. Donc, mais par exemple, si c'est pour les activités d'AGR, tout le monde est inclus, tout le monde peut participer parce que c'est une activité que nous allons essayer d'expliquer dans toutes les langues. Par exemple, nous allons essayer d'expliquer en langue locale pour tout le monde. Mais s'il s'agit de sortir sur le terrain avec la population aussi, on peut toutefois expliquer en langue. Merci.
Merci, Esther. Could I ask maybe someone from Youth versus Apocalypse, because I think it's a little bit different for you because you don't have very young children. They're all more or less, what are the age ranges of the people that participate in your activities? And is it easier to work with these rather than with working with adults, for instance?
Yeah, so YBA, we don't take, but it's like ages from 11 through 19. I'm 14, I'm the youngest in lead circle, and then there's a lot of other people in the fellowship and also school meetings, ranging from like fifth grade elementary school to being in college, 19 years old. So it's sometimes different because I think it's not necessarily about age, but really about education, how much you know, because during a lot of our actions we do have like a lot of young people. There's a group, Abundant Beginnings, they're like ages 2 to like 4 years old, and they're out there leading chants, giving whole speeches about climate change. And so we really think it's like, yes, of course, because we don't want to have you at such a young age, like you're learning about all these harsh things, but at the same time, it is something that is affecting our future. And so it's not really hard working with younger people. It's just, providing the education and providing the accessibility to that education to learn about climate change is like sort of the challenging thing about working with younger people.
Catherine is nodding, she's agreed, but I'm going to actually maybe push it a little bit because you're talking about, okay, we understand each other, we have the same kind of knowledge about what's at stake here, we work together, but then there's also, the working. There's also, okay, planning together, coming to making agreements on timing and decisions and deciding what are the priorities and all of that. So would you say that also on that level, it's easier to work with your peers or not necessarily? What can you tell me, Katerina?
I think honestly, it's really inspiring to work with people your own age because I remember when I first went to my first climate strike, which was hosted by Youth vs. Apocalypse, I remember I just felt so like empowered, and I never felt like I could actually make a change in the world before. So that was a really amazing moment for me to see people my age and younger than me and older than me creating such a powerful movement with so many people participating. So I think there are a lot of benefits and good things that come from working with people your age, especially as a youth organization, because like looking back at like different organizations in the past and different like movements that have happened for social justice and different forms of justice have like a lot of those have been youth led. So yeah, I think working with youth is definitely like a really nice way to do activism, because you get to interact with people your own age and share a fresh perspective on the world.
Thank you, Katerina. There's something about identification. I guess if I would be, it's a little weird to say if I would be with more people of the same age in a demonstration, but I would feel some form of empowerment or inspiration. Yeah. So now let's move to the relationships with the adults in your organizations. And I'd like to ask you, what about adults? So maybe we can actually go with examples or stories that you can share with me where adults were supportive of your work. And I'm going to start with Hanifat. I'll ask you that question. And Olivia, could I ask the host to just mute everybody that is not being a speaker at the moment so that we can guarantee the best quality of sound? So Hanifat, so the question I was asking was, how is it to work with adults? Is it easier? What is the role of adults in your organization? Before you move on, I'm sorry, Hanifat, to interrupt you. I want to invite everybody that is listening to us, whether in the webinar or also on the YouTube, that you are welcome to ask questions. That we will pick some of them. We will not have time to pick all of them, but we will ask our speakers at the end of our interview. So if you have questions that you'd like to ask the group of panelists that are with us, please just put it in the chat or put it in the comments in the YouTube link. Hanifat, sorry, I forgot to do this. So now back to you. Working with adults in your organization, how can they be supportive?
Okay, in my organization, working with the adults are very supportive. Let's say, for instance, among the activities we carry out, we have the income generative activities, which we are going to add some adult expertise, that is the adults in different fields of training. It can be in fashion designing, a person that is expert in soap making, an hairdresser. So those people are all adults. They come to the field to train the young children, and they train the children and the young youth different type of handworks. Also, when we are to carry out an activity, which is very, very big, like campaigning or sensitization or displaying of videos to people in a place. So we also go and meet some adults that we know we are both together in the organization. The adults that we know they can help. So we go and meet them. When we tell them about it, we inform them so they can be able to supply some things that we will be able to use in carrying out the activities also. So in that way, the adults in my place, they are supportive in our organization.
Thank you, Hanifat. Jorge, I see you have a raised hand. So do you think, what could you tell us about your experience? Perdona, voy a hablar en español. I'm going to speak in Spanish.
A ver,
entendiste la pregunta, ¿no? Dime tu experiencia de trabajar con adultos en el comité.
Sí, la verdad es que siempre he recibido apoyo de adultos, comenzando por mi familia, que son los adultos más cercanos, que siempre me han apoyado, y yendo hasta los miembros de las ONGs y del gobierno autónomo municipal de La Paz, que siempre han estado ahí disponibles para apoyar algunas actividades del comité. Y es muy enriquecedor trabajar con adultos porque hay veces que también nuestra imaginación o la imaginación de los más pequeños se va por las nubes. Y hay alguien que siempre tiene que bajarnos un poquito y centrarnos un poquito para que la actividad salga mucho mejor y no nos disparemos, porque hay veces que la emoción es grande. También los adultos tienen mucha más experiencia en cuanto a situaciones, ¿sí?, que podrían pasar. Eso también es muy de valorarlo. Y hay que considerar que aunque nosotros tengamos la iniciativa, los adultos en muchos casos siempre nos van a poder apoyar. Aunque no seamos tomados en serio al inicio, tal vez con apoyo de los adultos sí podamos ser tomados más en serio. Y también esa es una de las finalidades que se busca.
Gracias, Jorge. So I heard from Anifat that adults can transfer their competences to children. They sometimes have capacity to reach out to other spaces that children and young people are not, so they can support children and young people in that. Jorge was giving example of where adults can offer be a soundboard and allow children and young people to increase the quality of what they are doing. Nina, ¿qué nos puedes decir de tu experiencia de trabajar con adultos?
Súper. En la organización lo interesante es que, bueno, los adultos que están dentro han entendido que como jóvenes no buscamos una guerra entre generaciones con nuestra lucha. Nuestro objetivo no es reclamarles, decirles, no, han hecho todo mal y ahora tenemos que venir los jóvenes a arreglarlo todo. No es el objetivo. Más bien queremos llamarlos a unirse a nuestra lucha. Y llamarlos a que desde sus capacidades puedan aportar también, porque justamente solo así unidos vamos a poder cambiar las cosas. Y bueno, es interesante tenerlos dentro de la organización también, porque pueden darnos diferentes puntos de vista y perspectivas, y sobre todo pueden proponernos cosas, pero sin imponer, ¿no? Eso es muy importante, y por eso es tan importante también que seamos un movimiento horizontal, ¿no? Todos tenemos voz. Todos podemos aportar sin imponer nuestras ideas, ¿no? Algo que creo que es interesante de un movimiento que incluye a diversas generaciones, de un movimiento que es únicamente de adultos, es que, bueno, sin el afán de ofender a nadie, algunas veces los adultos pueden tener esta limitación de no ver más allá de lo que conocen. O también puede que otras veces se vean enceguecidos por sus propios intereses, ¿no? Entonces, es por eso que es importante poder tener también parte de los jóvenes en estos grupos, por diversos factores, por la genuinidad de sus intenciones, por sus ideas que también o sea, como decía Jorge, justamente pueden ser ideas que pueden parecer locas, pero finalmente con la ayuda, con el intercambio de ideas se puede llegar a algo palpable y que realmente pueda tener un efecto, ¿no? Entonces, realmente es algo muy interesante poder tener estas varias generaciones dentro de un grupo.
Gracias, Nina. There is a question in the chat that goes very much in line with what we're talking about, which is, a lot of adults, they want to support young people. First of all, let me thank you, Nina, for what you said, because often we think, oh, these young people, it's their turn. They want to, flip it over, a little bit like what was said about feminism, that feminism was about, for some people, feminism was about reversing power. And it was never about that. It was about equality and participation. And I find that it's reassuring to hear from you, Nina. Okay, it's about working together and elevating the voice of children and young people. So thank you for saying that. So the question that Siobhan, is it? I hope I pronounce it well. I think this is an Irish name, is asking us. First of all, they're saying that you are all incredible activists, and I agree with this statement. And they are asking you, do you have any advice that you can give adults so that they can better support you in your activities? Are there any tips that you can give these adults so that you can work with them in the most effective way? So this is a question that I'm asking all of our panelists, and I welcome anybody that wants to say. I see Jorge has his hand, and also Nina, so maybe you can follow this order. Jorge, what advice?
El único consejo que sí es muy importante para mí es que no nos cerremos. Ni los adultos, ni nosotros nos cerremos. Porque si nos cerramos entre adultos y jóvenes, va a ser prácticamente imposible llegar a algo. Para mí, que los adultos también podrían tomar en cuenta las ideas que nosotros tenemos, que sí lo están haciendo. Y como jóvenes, nosotros también podríamos escuchar a los adultos y decir, oye, aunque esto sea disparatado, tienen razón al ubicarnos y centrarnos y ponernos en el rumbo correcto para que la idea se haga efectiva. Ese sería el único consejo y para mí el más importante que no solo en el activismo, sino en prácticamente todo tenemos que tomar en cuenta.
Gracias, Jorge. Could I ask Nina, you also had your hands up, but I don't know if you still want to say yes. Okay. So what can you tell us?
Muchas gracias. Bueno, así como siempre decimos que los jóvenes tenemos mucho que aportar, pues los adultos también. Y hay algo que los adultos tienen que nosotros no, es el acceso a espacios. Y bueno, sabemos que para frenar el cambio climático tenemos muy poco tiempo, de ahí la preocupación de los jóvenes. Y nosotros, o sea, no podemos esperar a que los jóvenes hagamos una carrera, empecemos a trabajar, llegar a estos espacios y recién hacer un cambio. Necesitamos que los adultos nos abran las puertas para trabajar juntos. Esta es una de las cosas, es muy importante. Ustedes tienen el acceso a espacios, entonces ábranos esos espacios.
Sí.
Después también algo muy importante es que también tienen el acceso a la economía, tienen poder con su dinero, ¿no? Entonces, piensen, piensen en el planeta, piensen en los jóvenes, inviertan en proyectos que valen la pena, hagan presión para que justamente se tome más en cuenta estos problemas, y si es que tienen acceso a lugares donde se puede tomar decisiones, donde tienen cierto poder, pues úsenlo y pongan a este problema como prioritario porque lo es y se nos acaba el tiempo y es necesario tener aliados adultos como ustedes que realmente apoyen nuestra causa y estén dispuestos a hacer lo necesario para poder ganarla todos juntos.
Gracias, Nina. Yo creo que pusiste el dedo en la herida, en las dos grandes heridas, que es la diferencia de poder político y económico entre niños y adultos, ¿no? Entre generaciones. Muchas gracias. Je vais inviter Esther. Je pense qu'on l'a pas entendu beaucoup, et
Oui.
à répondre à la question. Donc, la question était de quel conseil tu pourrais donner aux adultes qui veulent soutenir des jeunes et des enfants comme toi et Anifat. Qu'est-ce que tu pourrais nous passer comme sagesse?
Ok, comme un message pour passer aux adultes, ce que je veux dire est que il y a des adultes, comme l'autre l'a déjà dit, ils utilisent des enfants seulement pour des événements spéciaux. Quand du journée de l'enfant, l'enfant vient et après tout c'est fini. Les enfants ne sont plus appelés à participer. Bien sûr que nous voulons participer à des rencontres, à des discussions qui nous concernent, mais nous n'avons pas l'opportunité de participer. Ce sont les grandes personnes, les adultes qui prennent des décisions à notre place. Et nous avons aussi des bonnes idées, des activités que nous voulons faire, mais nous n'avons pas de financement pour pouvoir le faire. Donc, pour pouvoir gagner de l'argent chez les autorités, c'est un peu difficile pour nous pour pouvoir le faire. Donc, et comme l'autre ami l'a dit, c'est le problème qui se pose chez nous en tant qu'enfants pour réaliser certaines activités. Et pour les adultes, ce que moi j'aimerais dire est que les adultes nous aident vraiment pour pouvoir réaliser nos objectifs, nos plans d'action et nos activités que nous avons prévu faire. Donc, par exemple, nous voyons que les droits des enfants ne sont pas respectés dans cette localité, mais les stratégies que nous voulons prendre ne sont pas assez efficaces. Donc, si les adultes nous accompagnent, nous pouvons porter le message haut et les droits des enfants seront respectés. Donc, nous sollicitons l'aide des adultes qui nous accompagnent, mais qui ne parlent pas à notre nom, qui nous accompagnent juste et qui nous ouvrent certaines grandes portes pour que nos messages puissent être passés. Ok, merci.
Merci Esther, merci de nous rappeler le fait que souvent la participation des enfants, elle se fait que pour illustration et une seule fois, mais qu'en fait c'est une conversation continue. Et aussi le fait que les jeunes et les enfants, ils sont des acteurs du changement pour conquérir leurs propres droits et qu'ils n'ont pas nécessairement, ils ont besoin du soutien, un accompagnement, mais pas nécessairement qu'on parle à leur place. Un grand merci de nous apporter ces idées. Hanifat, you also have your hand up. Could you tell us an advice that you want to give adults that want to support young people like you?
Thank you. The advice to be given to the young people like me, tell them about the importance of investing in the children, the advantages of promoting the children's rights when the adults invest in the children. So by the time they will be at the old age, the children will be able to build the nations, to build the communities more than they've done. Also, some advice to give to the adults. The adults should stop some risky actions they take that can implicate the children or the adults in particular. Let's take for instance, when we talk of the children migrating from a country to another, there are some adults when they see migrant children in their communities or in their areas, they treat them in a bad way, not knowing that both the migrant children and the children living in their community or the children living in their places, we have the same right to enjoy. So those are we should also try to advise to talk to the adults about the rights of the children, telling them that both the migrant children and the children living with them has the same right to enjoy. Also, some adults, when they see migrant children around them, they just welcome them and take them into their houses like that, which is very, very bad. In some places, it is not good. Even though in Nigeria, it is not good. There are some children, when you welcome them into your family or into your home without knowing the places they are from, if anything can happen to the children, the adult will be responsible for it, not knowing that the adult just helped the child. But we advise the adults that when they see the migrant children, they should be able to take them to a place. It can be like a police post or to the NGOs like the AMWCYs. So from there, they will be able to do the normal thing to trace the family of the migrant child and do the returning of the child to their country or to their places. Thank you.
Thank you, Anifat. You bring in a topic which is the whole issue of children on the move, that your organization does a wonderful job at addressing. that could be really a topic for its own webinar. So thank you for bringing that up. I'd like to still hear from our friends from, thank you, Nifat, from Youth versus Apocalypse. Since everybody all from the other groups could give some advice, what would you say from your experience would be your advice to adults that want to support you in your work?
I guess I can share first, if that's okay.
Sure.
So yeah, like everyone else was saying, we need adults in this movement. And I think climate justice overall will be more successful if it is an intergenerational movement, because we need the support of adults for political reasons, economic reasons, and also just because of the perspective that they offer. It's a valuable one that we need to acknowledge and also have making decisions with us. And also recognizing that we are all standing on the shoulders of past movements and past activists who are now adults, now elders, that we have a lot to learn from. For example, from like Black and Indigenous frontline communities who have always been hit the hardest from climate injustices such as environmental racism. We have so much to learn about how to approach activism, how to confront these systems of oppression in our government, such as white supremacy, patriarchy, racism, all these different issues that are still actively oppressing people to this day, and learning how we can confront these systems and also take care of ourselves within this movement, and how we can achieve a better world.
Thank you. It's a big wake-up call, no? Because you know, every time I hear what you're saying, I'm always asking myself, even in this webinar, you know, in which ways am I perpetuating structures of power related to my age, my ethnicity, my language abilities? You know, it can go in all directions. Thank you, Katerina. Anaya, you get last but not the least. Definitely.
Yeah, I agree with everyone said, especially about the part how we need adults to achieve climate justice. You know, adults have so much experience, and like Katerina said, we are standing on the shoulders of past movements and past activists that have a lot of experience. And I feel like being an activist now, especially with like social media and just so many different ways to, you know, perform activism, we have a lot to learn still. And, you know, a lot of us do start young. I started when I was 11, so I still have a lot to learn. So I guess the advice I would give to adults is just to remember that we still have a lot to learn. Like, even though we do know a lot about climate change and a lot of education about it, I think just patience and, you know, acknowledging that we're still kids and that, you know, we're still in school, we still want to do kid-like things. We might have like kid-like ideas, but just to be like patient with us and to, you know, acknowledge that we're still children and that, you know, this is a hard thing to be doing every single day and a hard thing to be even thinking about every single day, and that it's really our future, and sometimes that can be mentally draining. So yeah, my advice is just for adults to be, you know, patient, and that you know, we're learning from them and we appreciate them.
Thank you, Anaya. And that is also a reminder, because some people are also thinking, oh, young people, they are the future, they will save the world, you know, and that's a big burden to carry. And sometimes we also forget that, that there's a lot going on in the lives of young people such as yourselves. Okay, so this is actually, this was our last question. I want to thank you very, very much for making the time to be with us, for sharing your experiences, for sharing your advices. It was really heartwarming. Also the fact that we could, you know, get over the technological differences and the language differences and the geographic differences and come all together in this wonder of technology, which is the internet. I just want to acknowledge that there was a question from an anonymous person, an anonymous attendee, which could be the topic of another webinar also, which is how can these groups all come together and be united across countries and have some kind of a common ground for action. So thank you for this question. I'm sorry that we cannot put it to our speakers. And thank you to everybody that have been with us. I'm going to pass it on to my colleague, Jessica Taft, who is a professor of Latin American and Latino studies at the University of California, Santa Cruz. And she is a scholar in this topic. She follows a lot the issues of political lives of children, especially youth activism. And we invited her, she's part of the group that organized this webinar, and we invited her to bring together some points, connect what was said with some of the more global themes around youth activism and intergenerational relationships. So Jessica, I pass it on to you. Thank you.
Super, thanks Luis, and thanks to all of the amazing panelists. I want to just first acknowledge that most of what I've learned about the topic of intergenerational collaboration within social movements comes from my years spent conducting research with the Peruvian movement of working children. And so I always express my gratitude to the kids and the adults of Mantoc, Minatsop, and Ifehant for continuing to be my teachers on this subject. And now additionally today, my gratitude to all of the panelists who've spoken, who've given me some more new insights and new things to think about and to think with. And so one of our intentions in inviting these three different groups was to try to highlight some of the different social problems that young people are addressing in their activism: work and economic inequalities, the climate crisis, education. But one of the things that's really evident from everyone's commentary is that young activists see all of these different structures of injustice and oppression as deeply connected. Young people see the connections, they understand how these crises intersect with one another, they see their shared roots in racism, capitalism, colonialism, and then because the problems are interlinked, their struggles are also interlinked. So much as we may have thought about these as representing three different movements, there's a clear way in which young activists see these connections and see how they're interwoven together as struggles, right? And it also draws our attention, I think, to the fact that children and young people are facing all kinds of issues. They have things to say about every sort of political subject we might be considering, not just things that some people might identify as child specific, right? That they're actually able to comment on and analyze and engage around and have lots to say about the urgency of addressing all of these different political problems and social issues. And then sort of pulling together some of the threads on the intergenerational dynamics, which is obviously the focus of what we want to talk about today. It's really clear that young people are calling adults in, right? They want us with them, but not to impose our ideas upon them, but to work alongside them as true collaborators in the struggle. I noted that the young people did not tell us that they want us to tell them how to organize or to tell them what tactics they should use or to tell them what the right strategy is for their movements, that they want us to think through those things alongside them, to be sounding boards, to engage with their ideas, to kind of consider multiple options together. And that young people are really astutely aware of when they're being tokenized. As Esther noted, children and young people don't want to be just decorations. And I think we're seeing increasingly around the world, young people really identifying when that's happening, right? Being able to sort of immediately call out when they're being invited just to speak in order to be inspiring rather than to actually have influence and power. And so they're, I think, reminding us that they really deserve to be heard and need to be given resources to do that work, right? As Nina pointed out, this often means thinking about access, financial resources, and adults' particular role, helpful brokering relationships, helping make connections with power holders and policymakers, and really helping open doors and get youth into those spaces, and then helping youth be heard in those spaces rather than just, again, be tokenized or seen as a decoration. I would also say I hear young activists asking us to really respect their contributions and strengths, to respect their ideas, their creativity. We know from research, though, that this is actually often quite challenging for adults. Even very well-intentioned adults sometimes need to unlearn some of our intergenerational habits and some of our normal ways of interacting with young people. I think, as Luis was saying, right, we always need to be like reflecting on the ways that our own practices are upholding different kinds of power dynamics and our own sort of tendency to dominate spaces, to talk too much, to sort of run things. And we have to unlearn those habits. But ultimately, children and young people have these incredible insights about power, injustice, inequality, and actually their radical, wild, utopian, or as Jorge said, up in the clouds visions may be actually exactly what we need to really face the problems that our world is dealing with, right? That these young people's radical vision is actually exactly the kind of vision that adults could be supporting and upholding, and not always necessarily bringing them back down to the ground, but trying to figure out together, well, how do we implement that radical vision? How do we make that possible? And that young people can really show us the way on some of that, but we have a lot of work to do in helping carry that burden, as Anaya reminded us at the end, right? This is not about asking young people to save us, but really working alongside young people to face the crises that we're all facing together. And with that, I'm gonna turn it back over to Maria and Olivia for some last goodbyes, I believe.
Hi everyone, and I would like to thank everyone for attending the webinar, and also our panelists, the interpreters, our IT supporter, and also Luis, Claire, Olivia, Jenny, Jessica, Richard, Maria, and James. Thank you all, and I think that we have learned today, and because we don't want to close ourselves, I see these as just a first step for a future, hopefully in-person meeting, where we will bring together all the groups who spoke today, but also other youth and even younger activists. Thank you, and now I will hand over to Olivia.
Mute. You're on mute, Olivia.
Of course, I was sorry about that. I just wanted to extend the thank yous to the University of Sussex ITE, who was an amazing support to get us broadcasted today, and all our interpreters, for your information, have been supporting us voluntarily, taking their time on the busy Saturday and many meetings before that to get us ready. So thank you, Alexandre, Steve, Lisa, Christine, Luis, Patricia, Romina, Almudena, Tony, Jacob, Tian, Lisa, and we have a few that had to drop at last minute for emergencies, but that were also very committed. So without you, it wouldn't have been possible to have our youth activists speaking to each other, and maybe some of the audience as well could engage more easily. So thank you very much. And thank you to the University of Sussex for hosting this webinar, and for all of you to take some of your precious time on the weekend, especially during this pandemic where our time is so crunched, to be with us, learn with us, and we hope we can continue to engage. The webinar will be shared. It has been saved, as you know, and we will be happy to receive more of your questions if you have any, and to keep you posted for future discussions such as this one to address the questions we couldn't address today. Before we close, can I invite everybody to put their camera on so we can have a last wave of goodbye? And on this note, we would really want to wish you a wonderful rest of the weekend, and looking forward to having more of those enlightening conversations and learning how to work better together.
Family picture.
I will now close the meeting. Thanks again, and congratulations to our youth activists for being so engaged and giving us inspiration and continuing the different fights that need to be taken. We look forward to working also more with you, not just discussing. Bye, everyone.
Bye.